Good morning. I want to get started, so we have plenty of time for our speaker this morning. Welcome, everyone. It's really nice to see some faces I haven't seen in a while and plenty of new ones. Welcome to First Friday Breakfast Club. I'm Byron Huff, FFBC President. My pronouns are he, him, his. At this time, I'd like to offer any new FFBC attendee to introduce themselves. Just stand and say your name is all you have to do, or get feedback. Turn this down.
Turn the volume down.
Okay. Anyone?
Soccer, one kid sat down on Friday, was trying to escape, and Ralph Tessa is graduated from Valley and is you and I.
Hey, welcome. Welcome. Others. I know there are some, so don't be bashful. Great. Okay. Okay. Well, welcome others that are bashful and hope you enjoy the visit. Oh, that speaker is annoying me. FFBC is an association of LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies formed in 1996 and is a 501c3, making your contributions tax deductible. I guess we don't have that. Sometimes we have well, if you've seen our newsletter or on our website, there's a logo created by Wade Peterson that highlights our 30 years this year. We have awarded over $600,000 in scholarships that are awarded annually to high school seniors who have done significant things in their schools and communities to reduce homophobia and educate on LGBTQ issues. April 30th was our deadline for this year's scholarships. So we're now for 2027 for our June meeting. So donations made now will be for that award. We awarded a record 21 $3,000 scholarships this past June. The scholarships are awarded regardless of gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, or other protected characteristics. This is all thanks to generous donors who recognize that FFBC scholarships are important to help exceptional young students reach their higher education goals. All this is only possible through generous donors. I hope you'll consider a donation for our 2027 awards. FFBC sends 2 emails a month, one for our meeting, one for our newsletter. If you're not receiving it, send us an email and we'll add you to the database. You can find archives of our newsletters also on our website if you've missed one. Excuse me. Next copy deadline for our newsletter is August 24th. Anyone is welcome to submit an article, subject to review by our editor, but be sure and follow us. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, which is pretty new. And we're trying to get more people understanding FFBC and what we do by getting out in social media. So join us that way and like our posts and so forth. Capital City Pride created a community calendar specifically meant to promote LGBTQ plus events and activities. Anyone can submit an event which is subject to approval. I would encourage everyone to utilize this great tool to help our community know what's going on. And you can find the link on our website, ffbciowa.org, or if you go to Capital City Pride, search that and go to their website. They have under resources, you'll see community calendar. There is a lot going on, more than you realize when you see the organizations. Let's see. Our next board meeting will Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m. FFBC is seeking a new treasurer to join our board. Experience in QuickBooks and Excel would be beneficial, but please contact any of the board members if you know someone who would like to join our amazing organization. And now Rachel will introduce her speaker this morning.
Hello, my name is Rachel Gulick. I use they, them pronouns, and I serve on the board with the First Friday Breakfast Club. So I'm going to let you folks read the bio about Julia Franklin because I've had the pleasure of knowing Julia, I think now since I was about 20. I'm now 40. Ding! And originally that was at Drake through Rob Stevens. And I re-met Julia when she was working at Bravo Greater Des Moines as their grant administrator. And in my first season as executive director of Girls Rock Des Moines, I was writing grants blindly with no experience. And I got a call after I got my first one, and Julia was like, "Do you want to get together for coffee?" And then we got together for coffee, and she, number one, is one of the most genuine, um, caring, and available. Like, you show up for people. And in that moment of my life where I was diving into something that I had never, attempted, she shared some words with me about how, one, that uh, I'm getting a little emotional. It's so powerful when someone sees in you and believes in you the things that you have not yet been able to manifest. And those of us in this room who like have believed in things such as First Friday Breakfast Club when it was just an idea, or when a choir was just in a basement, or when we are branching into new spaces where there is uncertainty or doubt or um, no guarantee that you're going to know how to get through that. When we have mentors and advocates surrounding us, I wrote this down last night. I don't know, maybe it resonates with you. I think we have to share with the people that show us, you know, the people that show up for us. And Julia is an incredible artist. We've seen that. I've seen it, experienced it. I'm going on now. Um, and uh, I'm just so grateful that number one, on a first Friday, there's two First Fridays in Des Moines. How many of us have been to the other First Friday at Mainframe? The later First Friday. Okay, great. And so, how many of us have not been? So many, so many. Just on the other side of the hospital is Mainframe Studios. And the executive director of Mainframe, an incredible arts um, uh, incubator, meeting ground, um, collective, creative kombucha kind of space. Um, Julia Franklin leads this band of incredible artists and this community space that has really created so much community for Des Moines and beyond. And we are so lucky and fortunate to have both Mainframe and Julia Franklin with us here this morning. So please help me welcome Julia Franklin.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rachel, for the introduction, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Excellent. Um, I've actually spent most of my life trying to understand what it makes a place feel safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. And I know you know what that means. A place where you can finally exhale, where you don't have to explain yourself, where you don't have to perform a version of yourself for other people, and that place where you can simply be. As I prepared for today, I realized I've been asking that question for more than 35 years through my own artwork and my relationships, through my own search for what it means to be home, through my own father's story, and now through my work at Mainframe. Today, I want to share my journey as an artist and a nonprofit leader, and the thread that quietly weaves its way through almost everything I make and do. That relationship between space, place, memory, and belonging. And as I put together this talk, I realized that my work across materials and decades circles around those same ideas, how the spaces we occupy shape us, and how the ones we long for pull us forward. My artwork, in many ways, is a map of the places that have held me and challenged me and pushed me to reinvent myself. And this quest to find belonging is deeply connected to Mainframe Studios, a creative hub for more than 220 artists here in the heart of downtown Des Moines. But to understand my story and where all of this begins, I need to start at the beginning. I was abandoned at a hospital and later adopted. Looking back, I now understand why I use found objects in my artwork. Found objects are those things that are discarded, overlooked, and left behind. I save them and protect them and honor their value. And in a way, I'm doing for them what I hoped someone would do for me. That search for safety and value shows up in how I think about home. In fact, this is my family and where I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas. Like many families, ours would unexpectedly experience loss. Secrets would come to light, and there would be dramatic change. And those experiences would completely reshape how I understood home and belonging. So much so that I would spend the next 35 years trying to define what a safe space looks like and feels like, while desperately trying to make one that feels just right. Space and place have huge impacts on us. And in January 2001, I made a big leap and moved from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, to Lamoni, Iowa, where I taught sculpture at Graceland University. Moving to the rolling green hills of rural Iowa really changed my perspective and gave me time for reflection. And then someone arrived who changed everything. I had a daughter, Sky. Sky, in fact, turns 24 next week, and she now lives and works in Seoul, South Korea. She's also a grad of UNI. You'll be in good hands. But what I want you to know is that this kiddo changed my entire life for the better. She made me slow down. She made me wonder. She was curious, and she reminded me that I was overlooking the very things that made life interesting. And have you ever been on a walk with a 4-year-old? Oh my gosh, you're not going anywhere, right? Because they find everything fascinating. Every rock, every leaf, every stick. When Sky was little, we would go on walks in our neighborhood and we would collect things. And suddenly our pockets were too small to carry the things that she found interesting. So we started taking a wagon around filled with glass jars, clinking around the neighborhood. And we would fill them up to catalog our surroundings. And suddenly every walk became a treasure hunt and a practice of paying attention. She reminded me that the world is full of wonder if you're willing to slow down enough to see it. That not only changed how I parented, it also changed how I made art. I stopped thinking about art as objects on a wall and started thinking about art as experiences, as places, as environments, as ways of bringing people together. I built installations with real grass and pine needles, and here Sky and I brought the outside inside, and we cultivated this new landscape together. Suddenly, a gallery wasn't a place to look. It was a place that could be smelled and touched and heard. And I want to pause for a moment. I want you to imagine what damp grass would feel beneath your feet. And can you hear the crickets chirping? Sky and I had rolled out real grass sod and put our neighborhood collections on display. We quickly learned that whatever we collected could never quite be preserved. Things would continue to decay, and colors like memories would fade. But for the first time, I felt free to play and break the rules and invite the public to join in. Visitors picnicked, people did cartwheels, they took off their shoes, and a stuffy gallery setting transformed into something that was alive. At the time, I didn't have the language for it, but now I do. I was actually studying belonging. I just didn't know it yet. Fast forward 5 years, and I began to shift my attention to my home and my domestic life, where I was fascinated by our routines and everyday objects. This actually happened to be the year before my divorce. And in the artwork, you can see that the room is cold, colorless, and empty. All the objects are covered with salt, which was the embodiment of my grief and tears. I mopped the floors with salt, and that meant as you walked on the floor, you heard the crunch of the salt beneath your feet, and you could taste it on your lips. For many years, my work focused on home and memory, the things we keep, the things and the people we lose, the things we try to hold on to, and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Thankfully, my divorce coincided with a month-long residency in Vermont, where I escaped back outside and into nature to heal and play again. I went on hikes every day and started collecting pounds of pine needles because why not? But another artist reminded me that these pine needles are also something that's been left behind. But there's something about them, even the dust they made on the floor, the nests I could make out of them, and their quiet beauty. When I was in Vermont, I also began cataloging small town remnants, another version of those early walks with my daughter. I wandered around towns and gathered objects ignored by most. I photographed and collected, keeping what didn't matter to others, and in doing so, discovered how much they mattered to me. Upon my return to Iowa, I explored the landscapes on walks and bicycle trails and began collecting anything I found interesting. It was a lot of trash, but it was still interesting. And I did some reflecting. I came to the profound understanding that I collect found objects to remember and relive the past, to feel connected to the world and others, and to preserve and honor all the tiny, beautiful things this imperfect world provides. I also realized I was performing a revised version of Hansel and Gretel, and that I'm collecting objects in hopes that they will one day lead me home. A bicycle accident and a busted tire helped me frame these objects so viewers could appreciate and value the things we often discard and overlook. This exhibition, Lost and Found, reunited my passions for nature and old, worn things, as well as their own histories and mysteries. And then a loss changed my work forever. 10 years ago, my mother passed away, and my work dramatically shifted. I also realized she had been the gatekeeper of our family, and when she was gone, all of our family secrets came to light. It became intentionally and unexpectedly personal when I received a box of my father's belongings, his letters, his ties, and handkerchiefs, fragments of a life I barely remembered. This is my dad. My father died by suicide when I was 16 years old, and I never understood why, and my family never spoke about him again. This box of his belongings turned my world upside down. To try and make sense of it all and finally deal with his death, I began using his letters and old ties to assemble a portrait of someone I realized I barely knew. To try and understand him, I rebuilt the space that made us, our home. I recreated my childhood home as an immersive experience. In that process, I learned that my dad was gay and that he could never be with his partner. I also learned that we were about to lose everything, our house and our car. I also learned that he was a key witness in an arsenic murder trial where he had received death threats. It's wild. He felt trapped and didn't have a place to escape. And I did recognize that desperate ache. As I learned more about his life, I found myself asking a question that still stays with me today. What might have been different if he had lived in a world where he felt like he truly belonged? What if he had had more places where he could be fully himself? I can't answer that question, but I think about it every day. For most of my life, I lived with my father's absence, and this project made his presence undeniable. It was such an opportunity to get to know him. And it was also just a beautiful way to show others how playful and loving my dad was to me and my sister. And we were known as the Tucker girls. I also recreated sheet forts that we used to make together as a way to remember what it was like to feel safe and loved and protected. I also wrote a play about the day he went missing and what I later discovered. These artworks, these installations became sets, and performance was a way for me to tell my story. My own 16-year-old daughter performed the young version of me, and she got to meet her grandfather through art. This installation prompted me to break the stigmas of shame and silence, and I invited visitors to fully participate, to touch and sort through rooms and drawers and documents, to play the role of detective and uncover my family's secrets. And what I observed is that if I was willing to be vulnerable and share this tragic experience, we could actually engage in hard conversations about suicide and identity. By being vulnerable, I watched shame loosen its grip. People talked openly about death and loss, and art made room for what's difficult, and we met one another there. I quickly moved on to a host of new projects and started transforming empty spaces into places of comfort. I began hosting potluck dinners for strangers in abandoned gas stations. Why not? I made more giant blanket forts for people to escape and find refuge, and I started studying how space can invite interaction and care. I built sets for theater productions to spark conversations. And even during the pandemic, I created pop-up art making spots at public parks so people could get together and create again. You'll notice I like forts a lot. I also made a huge vintage sheet sanctuary for people to gather and write and process together. I also built spaces where people could confess secrets or share the things they wish they had said. I even transformed a trailer into an altar where people could make offerings and let things go. But I realized the real artwork was the connection. Again and again, I learned the same lesson. People are not looking for perfection, they're looking for permission. Permission to tell the truth, permission to grieve, permission to celebrate and ask questions, and permission to be seen. Art creates those opportunities, not because it solves all of our problems, but because art gives us a place to bring them. And most importantly, I learned that if you can't find the space that you need, you can create it yourself and then leave the door open for others. My work now asks me to think at the scale of a city block, and I get to put these lessons into practice every day. Sometimes people ask how I went from being an artist and a professor and a grants administrator to leading mainframe. And honestly, I don't see those things as different. I've spent my life building spaces, At first, they were made from grass and pine needles and found objects and sheets. Today, they're made from artist studios, public programs, exhibitions, and community partnerships. But they're all trying to accomplish the same thing: helping people feel seen and give them a place where they belong. I have the privilege of stewarding spaces so over 220 artists can create, connect, and share. And my goodness, this job has range. I think about space all the time. I think about murals and rooftops. I think about how to activate an elevator and common spaces to consider how the built environment can change how we feel and who we become. But the best part is actually witnessing artists' growth and creating pathways for the next generation. I get to champion artists and celebrate their exhibitions. How cool is that? I also get to help celebrate their professional growth. I get to help host field trips where young people get to meet working artists and see real career paths in the arts. It's also about partnerships with others to support artists, and also as a way to elevate and amplify arts and culture in Des Moines. We also get to host fabulous parties every first Friday. Each first Friday of the month, we get to celebrate art and artists. And this is my shameless plug. Come and join us tonight. Go home, take a nap, come tonight from 5 to 8 for some new and innovative and experimental works that will be on view. Rachel has a really cool musical performance to share. And I promise there will be great art. There will be interesting people and probably at least one conversation you didn't expect to have. And as you can see, what makes Mainframe special isn't the size of our building, it's our people and our purpose. Every day I get to watch artists find their people. I get to see them meet mentors. I get to watch them discover their own confidence. I get to see collaborations form and friendships develop. I get to see businesses get launched and dreams become reality. These moments remind me that art isn't just about making objects. It's about making connections. It's about helping people understand that they are not alone. And it's about the intentional daily practice of creating a place where more people can be seen, heard, and celebrated. That ultimately is the work. Whether I'm making art or leading Mainframe or standing here with all of you this morning, the real work is making space. As you've seen, my work has taken many forms, from installations to performance, from community-based projects to even large-scale events. But the heart of it has never changed. I'm still asking what it means to belong and how we make space for ourselves and each other, and how art and creativity can help us survive what life deals us. My hope is that you walk away today remembering this. If you can't find a place where you belong, you have the power to build it. You and your voice and your willingness to fully show up, those things transform spaces and communities in ways you may not even realize. Be brave enough to be seen and generous enough to bring others along. And let's keep widening the circle together. Thank you. How are we on time? Do we have time for any questions? Plenty of time. Excellent. I threw a lot of stuff at you. What questions do you have? Yes. There are other places like Mainframe in the United States. We happen to be the largest nonprofit building. There's quite a few of these, but they are for-profit. Or they happen to be maybe a nonprofit, but they are live and workspace. So they're in kind of a housing an entrepreneurial space. And there's also things that have failed that there's one that's larger than Mainframe, but it just couldn't succeed. And I think that's what makes Mainframe pretty remarkable, is that our mission is to provide affordable arts workspaces. In fact, with rent and utilities, a space per square foot is cheaper than U-Haul storage. So climate controlled storage, right? But I mean, we get to offer free Wi-Fi, you get free downtown parking, and you get all of these amenities like a First Friday event to bring people into your business, into your studio. We also are working on a lot of opportunities because I don't know if you know, but the state cut funding to individual artists this last year. There's really no funding for individual artists left in our state. And so we are finding ways to do that. So we're starting to fill the gap. We're also trying to fill the gap on exhibition spaces. You can actually enter your artwork. We have open calls for art every month. They are free. We're not here to make money off of artists. We're here to promote artists and their work. So if you're an artist in Central Iowa, submit your work. Every first Friday is a themed event. So that way we're bringing in new audiences. We're giving artists maybe a new challenge to kind of think about and make work for. But Mainframe is unique because other places might have space, but they don't have the programming. And that's what we are doing. So in the last 2 years that I've been at Mainframe, we've kind of amped up our First Fridays, but we've also added other things like our K through 12 public school field trips. Those are huge. We have almost 1,000 kids who come and visit and get to work with artists and make art on the spot that day. And that wouldn't happen without some public support. We do get some state funding and a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to make that happen. May it stay in place. What other questions do you have?
What's the theme for tonight?
The theme for tonight is experimental and innovative. So every theme we're trying to keep a little bit vague so artists can interpret it. You are going to see some super cool, unexpected video-based work. So you're going to see new media. You're also going to see artists who are experimental. They are experimenting with new materials that you wouldn't expect art to be made with. So you should come check that out. That exhibit will be on our first and second floors. And then we're also working again on making space. We invite rural arts groups to show their work in our third floor gallery. So this year, this month, we're highlighting works from artists in Fort Dodge. Last month, it was artists from Perry. So that's exciting. And then our fourth floor is a group of artists that are somewhat connected to the Des Moines Arts Center, but a ragtag team of artists working in sustainable destruction. So you're going to have to come see what that means, right? How did artists interpret that? Good question. Next month in September is Fashion Forward. So it is all about fashion, and we're encouraging everyone to come dressed however you want because it will be wild and amazing and so creative. So come show up for that. Someone else had a question. Yes.
I've been through several times, and people from out of state, are you drawing a lot of artists from outside of this area, from across the country?
Our mission right now is to kind of provide affordable arts workspaces for artists here in Des Moines, and then also foster creative communities here in Central Iowa. So we are really trying to build the hub here before we kind of get ahead of our skis and start being larger. But we have actually artists from around the state who've brought artwork in. So we have artists from Cedar Falls exhibiting their work, in Iowa City who will have work on display tonight. So if people are willing to bring it, we don't have a shipping budget, but if they want to bring it, we are happy to display it. And all of our shows are juried exhibitions. So we pay a juror or a curator to select the works that are on view, because we're also trying to help artists build their resumes. You have to be able to publicly exhibit your work to be able to get new opportunities. So we're providing that. Great question. Other questions? Yes.
Just a comment.
Yes.
I put it home. And, I have to be careful about going down.
Yeah.
Everybody else sees something that I fall in love with, and I want to take it home. And I have no more space. wrong face. I don't have any space to set everything. I encourage anybody who's looking for something that you love and to collect art, give Mainframe a look at. It's just a wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. I love that. You're right. Mainframe has art for anybody. You will find something that resonates with you. And if you have run out of wall space, maybe consider sponsoring an artist. Like get their card, figure out how to pay their rent for a month or their studio rent, or just say, hey, here's some money, go buy some fancy art materials you know you've been wanting, and help them keep making because the economy's tough. Not everybody's buying art anymore, right? Putting food on the table is a bigger challenge. And so I'm a little worried, but right now we're still 100% occupied. We are allowing artists to share spaces so that way they can split the rent with a friend that works similarly with them because we want to keep Mainframe here for generations to come. And another way to look at Mainframe, everybody there is an artist, but every artist is a small business. You're actually helping 220 small businesses thrive. It's incredible, incredible. Other question? Yeah.
How does this fund? What's your budgeting like? What's your fundraising donations? How do you make ends meet?
So we are lucky because I don't really know anyone else who kind of operates this way, but most of our money comes from rent. So 85% of our funding, our budget's about $1.4 million. Most of that money comes from artist rent that they're paying. And again, crazy cheap, right? In terms of utilities and the rent for that space and all that they get for it. The rest we make up with for grants. We don't do a lot of fundraising. I think that's going to change because we do have a 50-year-old building and that's 165,000 square feet. It's going to always need some capital projects and, you know, a little maintenance and things like that. But most of our dollars actually go to maintain the building. So like 85% comes from rent, and basically that same amount goes back out to pay to maintain our building. Our electric bill in the summer is $35,000. So gross. I hate it. We're actually doing a building assessment right now to make sure we're operating as efficiently as possible. And we've got a team of engineers and architects working on that for us because we want to be sustainable moving forward. We always want to be able to offer what we do, but we also know the world is changing and we have to be ready. Good question. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, in the back. Great question. Yes, Mainframe is actually open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You also can come and make appointments. Individual artists handle their own schedules, but we say, please come in, drop by from 10 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. And then we're starting to do next year, we're planning on doing some more intimate kind of programmings. For those of you that might be really interested in something, and a busy first Friday with 2,500 people is not for you. I get it. It is overwhelming. So we're going to create some more intimate kind of evenings where you can get to know artists, hear artists talk and share about their work, or learn something new and make something together. So that's our plan for next year. Yeah, Rachel.
As ED of Mainframe, how and have you noticed how those skill sets are feeding into your artistic practice? Because you know, space making, belonging, becoming, has been a part of your practice. How do you see that feeding into what you as an individual artist are?
Well, I think that's hard because being an executive director these days, not always super fun, right? There's a new pickle every day, right? Something unexpected. And so a lot of my, I don't make pickles. I do not. I should. But my artwork I've noticed has gotten smaller. I've been working on very small objects that I put in sucrets containers. That was how my grandmother saved things. She had bobby pins and buttons and all sorts of things in sucrets tins. So I'm going back and using those small objects and kind of thinking of them as memorials to people and working small because that's what I have the time to do. I'm also starting on new collage work where I am layering papers after papers And then I'm calling it excavations. I'm just going back and carving back into those works and revealing other layers. So I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having fun. And then I realized the other day, I'm like, boy, when I was a kid, I had a table and it was just glue and jars and tissue paper. And I would glue tissue paper to these jars so we could have candles in them and make sparkly things. And I realize I am just right back to collaging. I am back to paper and glue, and I'm okay with that. I also was outside digging in the backyard dirt with a Baskin Robbins spoon. And so when I think about excavating and like digging back into, I'm still doing those same things that I used to do as a kid. That's cool. We'll figure out where it goes. But my work has gotten much smaller because those room size installations, that was months to years to make happen, right? I don't have time for that. I don't have storage for all those things. But I do think mainframe is my largest installation to date. We're starting to do building activations where we are paying artists in the building. We just added a new mural because we needed to paint the walls. So why not pay an artist to do that for us? We are going to have a new installation that pops up in October. That will be a little riff on Mainframe Studios because we were home to Southwestern Bell, kind of think about one of Des Moines' earliest data centers. And we are going to kind of take a spin on that idea of mainframe and data centers. And we're going old school analog, right? That mainframe is the place of human creativity. And that's where what we want to lean into, right? No AI generated art. We don't want to be a part of that. So we're going to kind of start to reimagine what a data center looks like from an artist point of view. So I'm really excited about that. So you got to come in October. Check that one out. Other questions? Yes. It is never the same, and I am never ever bored. So I would love to have lunch. That would be great. I'm usually scarfing food as I'm on to another meeting, or mopping up, condensation on it's called our penthouse where our facility stuff is stored. Yeah, one day I might be mopping, just to protect the building and protect artwork. I might be meeting with folks, starting to figure out what partnerships look like in the community. I might be mentoring an artist and helping them figure out some next ideas to take their work or how they could get it funded. Every day is different. I'm there supporting staff. I have the most amazing team right now. Oh my gosh. Libby Crimmings, if you know her, she's in charge of First Fridays. She has fun making these great celebrations of art and artists. Molly is in charge of operations. We've just added Nick to the team. He's now in charge of facilities, so I do not have to mop things always. We've got a Nick to handle that situation. And then we've got Amy Ellis. She's running our Work of Art, Business Skills for Artists Professional Development Program, and she's also handling all of our leasing. So what's really cool about our team is that every single one of us are artists. So that means that Mainframe is really of artist, by artist, and for artist. And that to me is really special for that because we know what it's like to create. We know all of those challenges and we're here to support people through that. Yeah. Other questions? Well, thank you. You've been a very generous audience today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Face ID doesn't work when the mic is in the way. Okay, there we go. Wow. Thank you, Julia. That was enthusiasm is important in your life, and Julia definitely has that for art and what a history. It's amazing how we grow up being so curious, and that's where Julia, I think, kind of started just the beginning. Changes in our life often lead us in new direction. We all need to slow down and enjoy and appreciate the world around us. What we learn will shape our future. art is an integral part of a thriving community. We're fortunate to have a community that supports art and artists. Mainframe is an important incubator for the arts. We should all support it. So thank you. Okay, upcoming. I won't go through all our speakers. We do have speakers booked through December, but next month, September 4th, will be Jackie Blout, who is here this morning. I thought I saw her. Oh, there she is. So talk to her if you'd like. I think you'll find her very interesting and really an interesting background. She's going to speak, I believe, on sexuality and gender in schools, and she has a lot of background. She's written books, so I think you'll find her very interesting. Please see our website or the LGBTQ community calendar for upcoming speakers. I do put stuff out there, like kind of their bios, so you can read about them. I welcome anyone to suggest potential speakers because we'll be booking for next year as well. So I hope all of you can join us again and invite your friends. Thank you and have a great weekend, everyone.